During a group trip, Elias Worthington brought along a woman and her daughter. There were 3 cars in total, but somehow, one seat was missing. Without hesitation, Elias pulled me from the front passenger seat and gave my place to them. It would take 5 hours to reach Seaview Bay, and in that moment, I suddenly felt tired of all of it. I calmly stepped out of the car and stood by as they drove off, the convoy moving steadily into the distance. Later, I saw a video taken at the coast. Elias was there, smiling and playing in the waves with the woman and her daughter. Someone behind the camera asked why he had not come to look for me. He was gently teaching the woman how to swim and replied casually, "Abigail Price is easy to comfort, she will not be upset." But what he did not know was, I would never be upset with him again. When Elias brought them along that morning, I had already felt a tug in my heart telling me not to go. The woman arrived in a fitted chiphow, elegant and poised, holding her daughter's hand as she walked toward us with a smile. "Abigail," she said sweetly, "Elias told me it was you who invited us. Thank you so much." Her smile was gentle, but her tone carried a quiet provocation. She knew perfectly well that I would never have invited her. Elias loaded their luggage into the trunk and opened the backseat door. Just then, he paused. 2 young men had appeared in the backseat, friends of a friend who had joined at the last minute. The friend rubbed the back of his neck awkwardly. "Sorry, Elias, I didn't know you were bringing someone too." Before Elias could say anything, he stepped forward to ask the 2 boys to give up their seats. But Sophia, the woman, spoke up first. "They're just kids," she said softly. "Let them come along. This age only comes once." She lowered her head as she spoke, her voice full of stage disappointment. Duo, and I will stay behind then. I hope you all have fun." She took a few slow steps away, then turned back and added, "Elias, Duo was talking all night about going on this trip. If you could, send her a few pictures while you're out. Would you?" Elias hesitated, then he opened the passenger door, reached out, and pulled me from my seat. "Abigail, step out for a moment. I will come back for you." At that moment, I did not know what my face looked like, but whatever it was, it moved even the 2 boys in the backseat. They quickly stepped out as well. "Sis, you take our seats," one of them said. "We won't go." There was sympathy in their eyes, guilt, too. I looked into Elias's calm, unreadable eyes. Then I smiled, one of those tired, ironic smiles that come when you realize just how little you matter. Clearly, this trip was not meant for me. I quietly picked up my luggage, helped the 2 boys back into the car, and stepped aside. Before the car pulled away, I saw Sophia seated in the front, smiling triumphantly as she waved goodbye. Through the tinted glass, I caught a glimpse of Elias's profile, elegant, composed, as always, and for the first time, I felt tired. My gaze drifted to the ring on his finger. It was the one I had slipped on when we got engaged. Now, it felt more like an eyesore than a symbol of anything meaningful. The ride from here to Seaview Bay would take 5 hours. During that time, Sophia posted nearly 10 updates on social media. First, pictures of the scenery along the way, then, increasingly, photos and videos of Elias, his hand casually resting on the wheel, sunlight outlining his features. Someone commented under one of the videos, "Sophia, is that your boyfriend? He is so handsome." She replied with a blushing emoji, then continued posting updates featuring Elias, one after another. At one point during the drive, Elias called me. They had stopped at a highway rest station. "Wait right there," he said. "Do not move, I'll come back for you." He wanted me to stand in the heat of the sun, in that sweltering parking lot, and wait for him. Maybe once, I would have done it, but not anymore. Still, I said nothing. I even said yes, because deep down, I wanted to see if Elias Worthington was truly the kind of man who kept his word. If he would come back for me. I sat quietly on the sofa, watching the pendulum swing second by second. 5 hours passed, then 6, then 7. Still, there was no sign of him. Then, another post appeared on Sophia's social media feed. In the video, she was lounging on a brightly colored pool float in a revealing swimsuit, laughing freely. Beside her stood a tall man, Elias. The sun sparkled on the water, their laughter blending into the sound of waves and summer air. A voice in the background called out playfully, "Worthington, are you not going to pick up Abigail?" Elias's hand hesitated mid-motion, causing Sophia to slip slightly and gulp a mouthful of seawater. He paused, then calmly replied, "It's fine. Abigail is a good girl. She won't be mad. I closed the video before it finished. That was all I needed to hear. He was not coming back for me. Slowly, I stood up and removed the engagement ring from my finger. My movements were deliberate, steady, as though I were removing something far heavier than a piece of jewelry. It had not been my imagination. Elias had changed. I could not lie to myself any longer. I could not keep clinging to the hope that one day we would walk down the aisle. This trip had been my idea. I had made the hotel reservations. I had carefully prepared the itinerary. But in the end, I was the only one who stayed behind. I could not help feeling bitter that Sophia had so shamelessly stepped into my place, enjoying everything I had planned. So I picked up the phone and called the hotel manager. After everything was settled, I took the ring and dropped it down the drain. I watched as the water carried away our past. Just like Elias had, there was a sting in my chest, and a knot of sadness that I could not swallow, but I kept telling myself, over and over, that the pain would pass. Eventually, my thoughts quieted. That afternoon, Elias and the others finally returned to the hotel after spending the whole day at the beach, but when they tried to check in, they were told the presidential suite Sophia had been using had been cancelled. It had originally been my room. Since I had not gone, it made perfect sense to release it. Elias tried to book another suite for Sophia, but the front desk politely informed him the hotel was fully booked. They all knew, this hotel was part of the Price family's business. Everyone understood what had happened. It was me. Sophia's voice trembled as she tried to sound pitiful. Abigail must be upset. It's my fault. If I hadn't been so slow learning to swim, you wouldn't have spent all day teaching me, Elias. Maybe Dodo and I should just leave. Elias's breath caught, not because he feared losing her, but because he had suddenly remembered something. He had forgotten to go back for me. Night was falling, in a city far from home. Where could a woman and a child go, alone? Still, he could not bring himself to let Sophia and her daughter leave. He reached out and grabbed her wrist, his tone sharp. Don't be ridiculous. This has nothing to do with you. If Abigail is upset, she's upset with me. You can stay in my room tonight. I'm heading back. He quickly instructed one of his friends to look after Sophia and her daughter. He did not even bother retrieving his luggage before rushing out. There was a different urgency in his steps this time. But just as he reached the lobby doors, Sophia called out, "Let me go with you. If Abigail is angry, I can explain things to her." Elias hesitated, then nodded. He knew Abigail too well. She would not leave without hearing from him directly, and once she got angry, it would take a long time to calm her down. Women understand each other better, so he let Sophia come along. But the child was young, and a 5-hour car ride would be exhausting. They could not leave without packing a few essentials. Going back to gather their things took another hour, and Elias, who never had much patience to begin with, sat quietly in the car and waited. That alone said a lot. While he waited, Sophia, worried he had not eaten all day, gently offered him some crackers, slipping them into his mouth as he drove. That was how I saw them. In the 15th post Sophia had shared on her feed that day, I forwarded the video to Elias. Then I sent one message: "You do not need to come back. We are done." After Elias made sure Sophia and her mother got home safely, he finally arrived at the place we had agreed to meet. But I was not there. Under the dim glow of the street lamps, only a few scattered cars sat silently in the lot. The night felt cold and unbearably still. A sudden wave of anxiety crashed into his chest. He could not quite explain the feeling, only that it was as if something important, something precious, was slipping through his fingers. That feeling peaked the moment he saw my message. I had written to tell Elias that I wanted to end things between us, but breaking up with him did not bring the relief I thought it would, not even close. I did not understand myself. I had made up my mind to let go of this relationship. So why did I feel like crying? And the fact that it all ended because of Sophia only made it worse. The phone rang. It was Elias. I stared blankly at the screen as it lit up and dimmed again, then lit up once more. At what point, I wondered, had the man who once promised to protect me forever, Elias, decided to stand on Sophia's side? I was 10 years old when the Price family finally found me and brought me home. But by the time I returned, there was already another girl living there, a girl my age. That day, I wore a faded shirt and cracked shoes. Standing silently at the foot of the stairs, at the top, she stood in a spotless princess dress, cradling a porcelain doll in her arms. We locked eyes. She was everything I was not: bright, loved, clean. I remember thinking then, if I had never gone missing, everything she had would have belonged to me. Later, I learned she was not even a member of the family, she was the housekeeper's daughter. But for a long time, the Price family treated me like the outsider. They disliked the habits I had picked up outside and constantly compared me to Sophia, the girl they had raised as their own. Only Elias. He was the only one who had stood by me from the very beginning, and now, even he was walking away. I do not know how long I sat there, phone still glowing softly in the dark. Finally, I pressed the answer button. Elias's voice, usually so relaxed and casual, now trembled with emotion. Abigail, I am downstairs, can we talk? He stood leaning against the side of his car, eyes fixed on the window of my apartment, unmoving. I threw on a jacket and went down to meet him. I had so many questions, so many things I wanted to ask, but the moment I saw him, all of it was washed away by tears. Elias pulled me into his arms, holding me tightly, whispering over and over that it would never happen again. I shoved him away. I admit I was losing control. My voice cracked, sharp and full of years of pain. Elias, do you not know how much I hate Sophia? She tries to take everything from me. How can you not know that? Regret flickered across his face. I know, he said, I know I was wrong today. Abigail, I am sorry, I promise you, I will not see her again. But I could no longer see clearly through my tears. I did not want apologies, I had heard enough of them. Promises made in moments of guilt only to be broken later. I want you to leave, I said, my voice hollow. Tomorrow I will talk to my parents about calling off the engagement, or if you prefer someone else now, then say it yourself. I did not look to see how Elias reacted. I did not even know why I had come downstairs to see him. Part of me had wanted to ask him just one question. Why had he stopped choosing me? But I never got that answer. All I got was an apology. And in that moment, I finally understood something. Love can be as fragile as glass, and just as quick to shatter. Early the next morning, Sophia arrived with her daughter to apologize. Ever since her divorce, she had been coming to our house more and more often, whether she was staying with us or not. Her room had always been kept just for her. It was the sunniest room in the entire house. Even during the years she had been away, it was cleaned every single day. No one was ever allowed to enter, not once. As I came down the stairs, Sophia stood up abruptly from the couch. In her haste, she even knocked the pudding out of her daughter's hands. Then, in front of my mother, she softened her voice into something pitiful and sweet. Abigail, she said gently, Elias asked me to come and apologize. I really thought you had invited me. That is why I brought Dodo along. It was all my fault. Please do not be angry with him anymore. He was exhausted yesterday, and he still drove all the way back that night. It could have been dangerous. I looked at her. Her performance was so unconvincing. It was almost laughable. You thought I invited you? I asked coldly. Then why was I, the so-called host, left out of the outing entirely? At that, a strange smile crept across Sophia's demure and delicate face. Then, right in front of me, she pinched her daughter, hard. The little girl burst into tears, and before I could react, my mother rushed to pick her up. Full of sympathy, she hugged the child close and turned to me, scolding. Sophia has already moved out. How long are you going to keep making a fuss, even if there is something between Sophia and Elias? It is only because you failed to keep your man. The sting of those words brought a burn to my eyes, but I swallowed it down and replied quietly, if none of you believe in me, then let us just call off the engagement. Call it off then. Who do you think you are threatening? Came a sharp voice from the doorway. It was my younger brother John, just home from university, and following silently behind him was Elias. John pushed past me and stepped in front of Sophia protectively. Abigail, he snapped, just because our parents feel guilty does not mean you can act like a tyrant. To me, Sophia is the only sister I recognize. If you ever try to hurt her again, do not blame me for what I might do. I had always known, deep down, that no one in this family truly liked me. But this was the first time they had said it out loud, without hesitation, without shame. I stared at John for a long time. We looked so alike, yet somehow we had become complete strangers, enemies. I said nothing more. I turned and walked away. As I passed Elias, I stopped beside him. My smile was bitter, almost mocking. Elias, are you satisfied now? Was that the apology you were waiting for? Elias felt a deep pang in his chest, but he said nothing. He had no words. A few days later, they called me back to the house to discuss the engagement. Everyone was there. Elias, his parents, mine. I thought it would be simple. That the engagement would be cancelled quickly. I was wrong. Not a single person supported ending the engagement. Even John, who had never hidden his dislike for me, disagreed. When I looked at him in surprise, he rolled his eyes and scoffed. "Do not flatter yourself," he said coldly. "It has nothing to do with you. If you break it off now, it would humiliate the Price family." Elias's mother took my hand, her smile polite but empty. "This was all a misunderstanding," she said sweetly. "Elias was simply being kind. He saw a woman struggling with a child and acted on sympathy. That is all. This is not something worth making such a scene over." From the corner of my eye, I saw my mother signaling me. Her expression said it all. "That is enough now. Do not make things worse." Everyone in that room thought I was just trying to win a petty argument with Sophia, that I wanted Elias to come crawling back and beg for forgiveness. Not one of them believed the truth. That I no longer wanted to be in this relationship, that I was done holding on. After a brief moment of silence, I took a deep breath and spoke calmly. "That is enough. Can none of you see that Abigail is about to cry?" Elias strode to my side, took my hand, and gently led me out of the room. For a fleeting second, it felt as though he was still the one person standing beside me. I pressed a hand to my chest, where a dull ache had started to spread. Trying to quiet the stir of emotion rising within me, Elias pulled me into his arms once again. But this embrace, it no longer carried the warmth it once did. He whispered softly, "Abigail, give me one more chance. I cannot live without you." His voice was earnest, almost desperate, and yet, my heart remained still. The wedding, it turned out, would go on as scheduled. The date had been set for the end of this year. They all assumed that after years of being with Elias, I would never let go so easily, that my silence, my indifference, was just anger that would eventually fade. What none of them knew was that I had been quietly preparing for a new chapter of my life. I was leaving, alone. I had signed up to teach in a remote mountain village, far from the world I had known. Maybe Elias still loved me. Maybe the day he left me was just a moment of confusion, but I was not willing to gamble my future, my marriage, on the hope that his love would endure. Before I left, I spent one last birthday at the Worthington home. This time, my mother took to the kitchen herself, cooking all day just for me. My father had come home from work early. Even John, my younger brother still in college, had requested leave and come home early, a small birthday gift box clutched tightly in his hands. It was the grandest birthday celebration I had ever had in the Worthington household. Elias entered the room pushing in a 3-tiered birthday cake. He smiled and handed me a small velvet box containing a necklace. It was simple, elegant, and surprisingly tasteful. I had never known Elias to have such an eye. Looking at the table filled with dishes made just for me, a wave of emotion welled up. Perhaps, just perhaps, this last dinner together would be enough of a memory to take with me. Then I noticed it. 2 extra sets of place settings had been quietly added to the table. My heart sank. A sense of sorrow and detachment swept over me like a chill. My eyes flicked toward the front door, just as the doorbell rang. Right on cue, Sophia and her daughter stepped into the house. I let out a soft laugh, a laugh for my own foolishness, for still hoping that this family might change, that they might remember, just for today, what the occasion was. My father came down the stairs, arms wide, lifting Sophia's daughter in delight as though she were his own. Beside me, John bounced up from the sofa and handed the girl his gift box. "Happy birthday, little Dottie," he said brightly. Laughter filled the room. The mood was warm, cheerful, festive. My mother called everyone to the table, her voice full of cheer. No one seemed to remember that today was also my birthday. I stood silently in the corner, blinking back the sting in my eyes. At some point, Elias came beside me. He gently pried open my tightly clenched hands. His eyes searched mine with something close to guilt, to regret. He pulled me into a seat at the table and filled my bowl with food, one dish after another. Then, in a voice raised just slightly louder than usual, he said, "Abigail, happy birthday." The room went still. You could hear a pin drop, and the sound of a pair of chopsticks falling onto the floor. Sophia's voice broke the silence. "Happy birthday, Abigail. I had no idea you and Dottie shared the same birthday, yesterday. We ran into Elias at the mall, and I helped him pick out your necklace." With a smile, She pulled out a necklace identical to mine from under her collar and held it up in front of me, swaying it slightly like a prize. "Isn't it lovely?" I felt Elias tense beside me. He leaned closer and whispered. I did not know I would run into her. Without a word, I reached for the necklace around my neck, unfastened it, and curled it into my hand. "I am hungry," I said softly. "Let's eat." That dinner passed in uncomfortable silence, except for Sophia and her daughter, who ate cheerfully, oblivious to the tension that weighed heavy around the table. For the rest of us, every bite tasted like ash. There was a sudden deposit in my bank account, a quiet gesture from my father, made after dinner when he had retreated to his study for work. My mother followed him upstairs. When she came back down, she handed me a handbag, an Hermes she adored and had only used once. My younger brother, who had said goodbye but still had not left for school, wandered over to me. For the first time, he lowered his usual tone. He said stiffly, "Just tell me what you want. Hurry, I need to get back to campus." I replied evenly, "No need, there's nothing I want." He scoffed, "Fine, saves me money." Then he stormed off, face tight with frustration. Later that night, Elias retrieved the necklace I had thrown away and apologized once more. "I am sorry, I did not know it would upset you. I will get you another gift." A pause passed, then a light sparked in his eyes. "Abigail, let's go on a trip. You said you always wanted to see the ocean, right? Just the two of us this time. Will you come?" My voice was quiet, expression unreadable. "All right, make the arrangements." Elias took that as an agreement and left. Pleased, I remained alone in the living room. I noticed one of the housemaids pushing away the barely touched birthday cake, intending to throw it out. I stopped her, took a slice with extra frosting, placed a candle in it, and lit it. Then, in the quiet, I made a wish. To Abigail, "May you find peace, joy, and a good life ahead." At 2 in the morning, I rolled my suitcase down the stairs. In the kitchen, I ran into the housemaid who had just come for a glass of water. She looked at me in surprise. I smiled and said, "I am going on a trip with Elias." I offered no more explanation. Then I walked out of that house, a house that had never felt like home. I chose to go to the mountain village where I had once lived for 10 years, a place where I had once dreamed of giving back through education. Not once during those 10 years did the Price family ask me how I was doing. They saw my past as shameful, unworthy, something to distance themselves from. Even Elias, whenever I brought it up, he would quietly change the subject. I knew why. He, too, was ashamed that I had spent a decade in a world so far removed from theirs. The next morning, when I did not come down for breakfast, my mother's expression began to sour. In the Price household, it was tradition to be seated at the breakfast table by 7 o'clock sharp. After waiting a few minutes, my mother finally instructed someone to go fetch me. The housemaid, hearing this, rushed out from the kitchen to explain, "Madam, Miss Abigail flew abroad last night with Mr. Worthington." My mother's expression did not soften. A flicker of disdain passed through her eyes. I thought she was serious this time. Turns out she just wanted to provoke Sophia again. She really does not know how to behave. I suppose that is what happens when you are not raised properly. "Enough," my father said suddenly, setting down his newspaper. "Abigail is still our daughter. Treat her with some respect." Meanwhile, Elias had booked the flight abroad. He had also spent a full day out of town, buying a diamond necklace worth a small fortune, hoping to surprise me. But when he tried to call, my phone was already turned off. He rushed to the Price residence, only to be told that I had left with him. Fear settled heavily in his chest. He contacted every one of my friends. All said the same thing. They had not seen me in a long time. At last, even the Price family realized I might truly be gone. A month passed. No one had heard from me. With the wedding date approaching and no bride in sight, the Worthington family prepared to annul the engagement. Elias refused. He would not let them. During this time, Elias had grown noticeably haggard in his desperate attempts to find me. One day, he stood in front of his parents, blocking their way, his eyes bloodshot and weary. "I will not call off the engagement," he said firmly. "I will find her. I have to." My sudden departure had left his mother feeling deeply humiliated. In her anger, she fell ill. To please her and help her recover, Sophia brought her daughter and moved into the Price family home. With her careful attention, Elias's mother quickly regained her health, but her resentment toward me only deepened. "From now on, I will pretend I never had a daughter," and she should not think about setting foot in this house again. She wants to act out. Then fine, cancel the wedding, tomorrow. I am going to the Worthingtons myself to call it off. Sophia gently massaged her shoulders, trying to soothe her temper while speaking up on my behalf. Please do not be angry. I am sure Abigail will be back before the wedding. Maybe she was just upset about Dodo's birthday party that day. It is all my fault. I should never have brought Dodo over. If I had not, Abigail probably would not have walked out. But have we not already made it up to her? What more does she want? At the mere mention of my name, Elias's mother's face darkened. The housekeeper quickly came forward with a cup of warm water and placed it by her side. Madam, your health is not fully recovered. Please try not to get too upset. Miss Sophia, perhaps talk to Madam about something else. She is still worked up. Let us not bring up Miss Abigail again. Sophia rolled her eyes subtly, but said nothing more about me. With only 3 days left until the wedding and still no sign of me. Both the Worthington and Price families held a joint meeting and decided to cancel the ceremony. Elias, who was still out searching for me, had no idea. When he returned, he was the last one to find out. The Worthingtons had never truly approved of me as their daughter-in-law. If not for Elias's insistence and the Price family's social standing, they would never have allowed the marriage in the first place. Now that I had caused such a scene, whether they believed it was justified or not, they saw it as a clear sign that I lacked dignity and propriety. In their eyes, I was no longer fit to join their family, unable to change his parents' minds. Elias rushed to the Price home, hoping to speak with mine. It was Sophia who opened the door. Her daughter, Dodo, immediately stretched out her arms, asking Elias to carry her, but he was in no mood for affection. He simply patted the little girl's head and motioned for her to go play on her own. The living room was a mess, filled with boxes and items waiting to be thrown away. Among the clutter, something caught Elias's eye. My curtains, the ones I had personally picked out for my room, now carelessly tossed with the garbage. He stared for a moment, then shouted, his voice shaking with anger. Who told you to throw out Abigail's things? The loud outburst startled the little girl, who began to cry. Just then, John walked in. Elias, what is wrong with you? He asked sharply, scooping up the crying child and gently wiping her tears, whispering soothing words to calm her. The housekeeper, clearly shaken, spoke up in a small voice, her tone laced with grievance. Miss Sophia told me to throw them out. I would never make such a decision on my own. Elias turned toward Sophia, his expression darkening. His eyes were full of rage, but Sophia merely smiled, unfazed. Dodo got paint on them. I thought I would order new ones for Abigail. Elias kept staring at her. He had seen too many of Abigail's things ruined, misused, or replaced during the years Sophia had lingered on the edge of their lives. Now that Abigail was no longer in the house, Sophia had wasted no time moving in, and even dared to touch her belongings. It was impossible to believe it was unintentional. Elias's gaze bore into her, unwavering, and slowly, under the weight of his silence, a faint blush rose on Sophia's face. John stood silently, watching the two of them standing far too close. A strange, unfamiliar heat rose in his chest. He let go of the little girl's hand, stepped forward, and placed himself squarely between Elias and Sophia, cutting off Elias's line of sight. With a cold tone, he said, "Why are you here? If you have no business, then leave." He glanced at the curtain Elias was holding. I was the one who told Sophia to throw it out. It is just a curtain. The Price family can afford another. Hearing the commotion, Mrs. Price came downstairs and asked Elias what was going on. Elias quickly made up an excuse. I left something in Abigail's room. I just came to get it. But when he opened the door, he was stunned. The room was no longer hers. It had been completely transformed into a child's dance studio. Her bed, her clothes, her books, every last trace of Abigail had been wiped away. It was as if she had never lived there. Elias finally understood just how deeply he had hurt her that day. He had left her behind, all alone, when he chose to take Sophia and her daughter away. Now, standing in this room emptied of her presence, he felt a sharp pain of guilt. On her behalf, he was angry for her. He grieved for her. He hurt for her. When Elias left the Price household, the always composed gentleman did something completely out of character. He made a scene in front of the elders, looking straight at Mrs. Price. He said with cold fury, "If you never wanted Abigail, why did you bring her into this world?" His words left Mrs. Price pale and speechless, her face drained of color with rage and shame. John was angry too, but he knew Elias. He had known him for years. Elias, even when angry, always held his composure. He never lost control like this. So John followed his lead and went upstairs. He had rarely, if ever, stepped into Abigail's room. Most days, he simply called for her from the hallway without setting foot inside. Now, as he took in what had happened, he finally understood why Elias had been so furious, and to his surprise, he felt the same. Even though John had never admitted Abigail as his sister, the truth remained: she was a Price. The blood they shared could not be erased. And he would not allow anyone, family or not, to bully her. Mrs. Price, with Sophia supporting her by the arm, also came upstairs and entered the room. She froze. Sophia's daughter was already twirling in the open space, practicing her dance steps with polished grace. It was clear she had been training for quite some time. After finishing a spin, the little girl ran up to them with a bright smile and asked sweetly, "Grandma, Uncle John, did you like my dancing?" Mrs. Price did not answer. Instead, she turned to Sophia and asked, her voice flat and unreadable, "Where are Abigail's things?" Sophia, seeing that she was not being scolded, smiled even more cheerfully. "I had everything moved to the basement, the bed, the wardrobe. They were taking up too much space. I was afraid Dodo might trip." Mrs. Price narrowed her eyes. "I told you that Dodo could use the room to dance. I never said you could touch Abigail's belongings." Still, Sophia did not sense the shift in tone. She replied casually, "But the room is so small. How could she dance with all that furniture in the way?" Then, turning to John, she added with forced lightness, "John, do you not think I made the right call?" But for once, John did not come to his beloved sister's defense. He said nothing. His silence hit Sophia harder than any scolding. Her eyes turned red. She quickly grabbed her daughter's hand. Within seconds, tears were running down her cheeks. "I am sorry for the trouble. We will leave right away," she choked out. Before Mrs. Price could respond, John spoke first. "That is a good idea. Go home." Then he turned and called for the housekeeper. "Put the room back the way it was. Everything. From now on, no one is allowed in here," in a quiet corner, where no one else was watching. Sophia stared at the younger brother who had just humiliated her. Her eyes were full of hatred. And beside her, Mrs. Price saw everything. She saw it all. I returned to the place filled with memories. A place that once shaped who I was. Familiar faces greeted me everywhere I turned. I did not tell them who I was, but it did not take long for me to blend in with the villagers. They were warm, welcoming, and when they heard I had come from a big city, they were even more enthusiastic. When I arrived, there were already a few volunteer teachers working in the village. Quietly, I donated the money my father had transferred to me. With it, the school was renovated, new classrooms were built, and we even added a basketball court for the children. Life here calmed me in a way I had not felt in years. A week after settling in, I sent Elias a text message. It was short and final. I ended our relationship. After that, I stopped checking messages from anyone. Here, the children's bright, innocent smiles, the villagers' simple and heartfelt kindness, all of it touched me deeply. Every single day, I found myself wanting to stay, to truly root myself here. 3 years passed in the blink of an eye, but eventually, I had to leave, and I did not leave alone. Yes, here, I found someone to share my life with. He had arrived 2 years before me. Technically, he could have left when I first got there, but he chose to stay. 3 more years. His parents had urged him to return many times, but he ignored them. Eventually, they came themselves, determined to find out what had kept their son away for so long. When they saw me, everything suddenly made sense. They gave him a few words of advice, then left smiling. Our colleagues teased us gently. Both of us blushed like schoolchildren. This time, we were heading home to get married. I never thought I would return to the Price household. I certainly had no desire to see Elias again. But when I turned on my phone, it was flooded with messages. The most recent was from Elias's mother. She wrote that Elias's health had taken a serious turn for the worse and begged me to come see him. I stared at the message for a long time, frozen in place. It was not until the man beside me gently asked what was wrong that I finally came back to my senses. For a woman like Mrs. Worthington to lower her pride and plead with me, Elias must be truly ill, so I decided to go back. As soon as I landed, I contacted her. She took me straight to the hospital. Since the day I left, Elias had never stopped searching for me. Years of stress had taken a toll on his body. He suffered from insomnia and became dependent on medication. The dosage kept increasing, until even that stopped working. When he saw me, a faint spark of life returned to his weary eyes. Lying in the hospital bed, tears slipped down his face. Whether they were from regret or sorrow, I could not tell. He tried to sit up. The movement caused the four to bulge painfully in his arm. Mrs. Worthington cried out and rushed to call the nurse, who came to reinsert the needle. But Elias never took his eyes off me, not even once. I understood the question behind his gaze. He was asking, "Are you leaving again?" I glanced at Mrs. Worthington, whose pleading eyes were filled with unspoken words. I shook my head. "Whatever needs to be said," I told him quietly, "can wait until you are well." Elias nodded slowly, joy flooding his tired expression. As I stepped out of the hospital, I saw John. By now, he should have already graduated from college. In the 3 years that had passed, he had grown up. He did not rush over to greet me as he once would have. The boyish excitement was gone. He had learned to hide his feelings. In that way, he was becoming more and more like Elias. "You disappeared for 3 years without saying a word, Abigail," he said, impressive. But then, his tone softened slightly. "Come home, Mom and Dad really miss you." I had planned to go home anyway. So I nodded and followed him into the car. In the car, John tried to make conversation, clearly forcing himself to break the silence between us. But we were never close. He did not know me, and I did not know him. After just a few minutes, the talk dried up, and the air turned heavy and awkward, thankfully. The ride was short. The uncomfortable atmosphere did not last long. As we pulled up to the house, we saw Sophia standing outside with her daughter. For some reason, they had not gone inside. When she saw me step out of John's car, her expression darkened instantly. Her eyes were full of bitter resentment. John ignored her completely. He opened the front door and motioned for me to go in. He gave me a small nudge and said in a low voice, "She has nothing to do with our family anymore." The door slammed shut behind us, shutting Sophia and her daughter out in the cold. Perhaps distance really does reveal the truth. After I left, they seemed to finally see Sophia for who she truly was. Without blood ties to maintain the illusion, and with resentment building, they no longer saw her as family. To them now, Sophia was less than a stranger. My parents were waiting for me in the living room. This time, there were no scolding words, no coldness, just a quiet warmth in their eyes, mixed with hesitation. Things they wanted to say, but did not. Dinner was already prepared. The food was still warm. They must have known I was coming home the moment my flight landed, for the first time. My mother reached out to place food into my bowl. When I looked up at her, she seemed shy, even a little awkward. "I heard you went to see Elias," she said gently. "That boy has suffered a lot these past 3 years because of you." My father set down his chopsticks and added, thinking he was being thoughtful, "Now that you are home, it is time to move forward with the wedding. No more waiting." I looked up and replied calmly, "There is no need. I am in love with someone else." The entire family was stunned. They knew how deep my feelings had once run for Elias. They could not believe I had moved on. "I came back to get married," I explained. "His family is from the north. I will not be staying here long." John reacted immediately. His voice rose in anger as he shouted, "Do you have any idea how hard Elias looked for you these past few years? He was going mad trying to find you. How could you leave him, just to end up with someone else?" I looked at him and wondered, why was it wrong for me to move on? But I did not want to argue. I simply got up and walked upstairs. Elias recovered quickly after his last visit and came to see me. But by then, he had already heard the news. I was getting married. His smile faltered the moment he saw me. Sadness fell over him like a shadow. He looked like he could shatter at any moment. I told him again, "I love someone else. I am getting married." He stumbled slightly, but managed to steady himself. Without another word, he turned and walked away. His figure, thin and quiet, disappeared into the desolate autumn afternoon. Fallen leaves clung to his coat as he passed, rustling softly under his steps. Later, when my fiancé came to pick me up, he ran into Elias at the door. The weather in the north had already turned cold. My fiancé had brought a thick scarf and gloves for me, along with a new set of winter clothes he had just bought. Our wedding was set for the following month. I would be heading north early to spend some time there before the ceremony. My whole family came to the airport to see me off. Elias came too. He did not say a word, he just stood there, smiling. It was not a happy smile. Before boarding, I turned to him and said, "Goodbye." Elias did not attend my wedding, and I did not ask why. My husband's parents welcomed me warmly, treating me even better than if I were their own daughter. Now, I am surrounded by love, from the man I love and from the family I married into. As for my own family, we keep in touch, but from a distance. There is concern, but little closeness. After my wedding, I never heard from Elias again, not a word, not for the rest of my life. Thank you for watching today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below, so feel free to share your opinions. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more great stories. We'll see you in the next video.